For more than a decade, FTI has strived to become the leader in the aftermarket performance transmission and converter industry. We've joined forces with McLeod Driveline Components under the leadership of Top Fuel Funny Car pilot Paul Lee, and now have a larger distribution network, more resources, and more power. Come see us in the pits and ask how you can join the FTI family. It's not cheating, it is the competitive edge.
It's time for an inside look at the most powerful motorsport on the planet. WFO Radio NHRA Nitro. This is WFO Radio.
Hey everybody, WFO Radio is back on the air, a little midweek action, and what a week it has been. If you didn't see, we had Alex Taylor talking drag and drive early in the week. We had Alan Reinhart. Later on in the week, we're going to have Robert Height. We're going to have Larry Dixon. We're going to have Spencer Hyde. So many great race-winning riders and drivers and everybody, including Gaige Herrera from Vance and Hines, Mr. Undefeated since he went to Vance and Hines. He's going to be joining us on this show, along with, we have got 5, count them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Super Comp World Championships represented on this show, as in Gary Stinnett and Steve Williams. The guys from Foggit are going to be on the show. We just got them connected right before. I see Gary, I see Steve. I'm super excited with plenty of time to spare. We got it all ready to go. They're going to check out the Gaige interview, and then we're going to talk Foggit. Everybody's asking me, like, what is that stuff? And most importantly, the innovators who are bringing it to the racing community, they're going to tell us. And also going to talk a little .90 racing as well, because we can't have 5 world championships worth of racers on here without talking a little racing. Now, before we get to Gaige, who is undefeated at Vance and Hines, and I'm just saying it over and over, Gaige, I'm sorry, but we're going to talk about the people who make it possible for me to go WFO, and it has been amazing. The folks at Phillips Connect on board in 2023 for everybody in the transportation industry. Smart trailer technology. They've got all the sensors, wheel bearings, weight, all kinds of safety issues and features. It's so great to know in advance. So if you are in the trucking industry, in the truck and trailer industry, if you got trucks and trailers going out over the road, you want to check out Phillips-Connect, or you can email me for a personal introduction, Phillips-Connect.com, Joe at WFOradio.com. Folks at Bernie Speed Shop up there in Ocala, Florida, on board with WFO Radio. This is Josh Hart's business. Over 100,000 square feet of exotic cars, muscle cars. If you're buying, if you're selling on consignment, they do all of those things. But they also specialize in frame-off restorations. They've got an amazing body shop and an amazing staff. Go to Bernies.com, check out their social media. The next time you are in the market for a classic or an exotic, check out Bernies. Of course, the folks at FTI Performance Transmissions and Torque Converters, we told you a little bit about them at the start of the show. They make a great product, and all you have to do is check out the winner's circle. That's it. You look at the cars and the contingency decals that they've got going on, FTIperformance.com, whether you are doing drag and drive, whether you are doing .90, whether you are in Pro Modified, FTI Performance makes the transmissions. And that brings us to our great friends at Foggit. Now, later on in the show, we'll tell you a lot more about Foggit, like why it works and how it works. But I can tell you that if you're going to spend X amount of dollars on the inside of your cylinder wall finish, and all these amazing parts and pieces, you should protect them. As soon as you put it away at the end of the day, what happens? Microscopic corrosion, maybe even a little rust in that trailer. That's kind of like a hot box after racing all day. But I'm not going to tell you anymore because we've got the experts. They will be on just minutes from now. But if you want to get a head start, go to Foggit.com. They have got a great contingency program as well. And of course, the guys at Total Seal Piston Rings, which is how you achieve that ring seal that is so valuable to your performance out there, whether it be in competition or just trying to make huge power. Unlock the hidden horsepower. Go to TotalSeal.com, whether you need a set of rings, whether you need one ring, they can make it happen right there on the website. And if you're looking for advice, this is what they say. Make them your first call, not your last call, because it all starts at Ring Seal, TotalSeal.com. Later on in the show, we will tell you about samtech.edu. Speaking of machinists, we'll tell you about Frank Hawley's drag racing school, and we'll definitely tell you how to get some great coffee from my buddy Marvin Rodak down there in Fort Worth, Texas. But right now, we're going to speak with Mr. Gaige Herrera, who I love the fact that he's taken time off work, his real job, to talk about his real job, Mr. Undefeated, Gaige Herrera. What's up, Gaige? Congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on the show, Joe.
All right. So what's the deal? Like, you're working and you got the interview and you got to take 5 or something like that, right?
Yep. I had to go twist my boss's arm to let me do this really quick, but he's a big fan, so he's all about it.
Okay. Well, that's what we want. You're building fans. We're all building fans. You got on this Vance and Hines bike and you're undefeated. Now, I know racers are superstitious, but that's pretty amazing. Since you got on this bike, you're 2 for 2. How are you holding up dealing with all of this? The newfound stardom, being undefeated, finding more space on your trophy case.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot to take in. I did not expect to go out there and dominate. I got, one of the baddest, if not the baddest bike to ride out there. So, I mean, Andrew Hines and the whole Vance Hines team's got that bike. They're out there flexing horsepower and it's going A to B, making good laps. So, for me as a rider and, to experience it, it's definitely a lot to take in. Like I told everyone, Gainesville, it took a while to set in, but then going to Charlotte, right before Charlotte, I guess, it's when it really set in and had to go out there and see if it was a fluke or not, or, and we went out there and we repeated and can't ask for anything better, to start the season, but it's there's a lot of races left to go.
So your 4 wide experience, everybody's happy. It's in the rearview mirror. We can now talk about it. It's a unique portion of the season. Some people love it. Some people hate it. The way I see it breaking down is when you conquer it, of course you love it. So you just won it. I would imagine you love it, but it is, we saw some emotions on the starting line out there. It wasn't an easy race for everybody. What was your take on the event that way?
That event definitely had me nervous. There was a lot going on between the 4 wide and getting timed out, and there's so much to pay attention to. I mean, I really didn't see or experience what could happen until first round. I was the last pair out, and what happened with Gianna and John Hall, that really, I guess, showed me what could happen in such a short time. Because I mean, you only have 7 seconds to get in once the first guy stages. So that definitely gets your attention. I mean, I liked it. It was cool. It's cool to experience it, especially being up there with 4 nitro cars. I mean, there's nothing like it. I mean, just the rumble and the sound. I mean, nothing gets better than nitro. But to be able to race it, I mean, that was pretty cool. A lot going on, a lot to pay attention to. I mean, I won, so I like it, but then I don't. I mean, it was cool. It's definitely cool to experience. I'm glad we only do 1 race a year. All in all, it's very cool for a racer and to be a spectator at the same time.
So we did a bit on NHRA on Fox, which was really cool, qualifying. They're getting to know you. You're a new face out there. And one of my personal friends from back home had brought Steve Grunwald, by the way. Thank you, Steve. Track photographer, Moroso Motorsports Park for the entire 1980s. It's amazing stuff. But he is a collector, as are so many drag racing fans. And he's like, right before that, literally minutes before, he's like, hey, man, I got this magazine with Gaige's family. Like, I think it's him. I took it from him. And we went over and did a bit for the TV. Hopefully everybody saw it. But your great-grandfather, he owned the deal. His 3 sons. Your grandfather was there in the pit area. Your dad was there. It was cool doing it. But what was the response? My goal was to showcase the fact that you guys are old school drag racing. You're 4th generation drag racer, not some, kid who got a ride the other day. I don't know that it matters, but I think it might.
Oh, it matters big time. I mean, I look at the whole racing thing as a family sport. I mean, even in between racers, sometimes, you have better relationships with them than your real family. The whole racing community is like almost a family, but, when you brought over that magazine and did all that thing on my family and stuff, that was very cool. It touched deep, and just to think about, what has happened over the years or how it started and to continue it going and keeping the name out there and, on the national side of things. And my grandpa, he didn't really have words for it. He never expected it. He always says my my great grandfather be turning over in his grave, you know, trying to get out to come, you know, to the races. But yeah, it's awesome to be able to experience, enjoy it with my family. You know, I mean, my grandfather's drag raced, and you know, his three brothers are basically who got it started with my great grandfather racing the Austins, Old Bulls, and all that, Willys back in the day. And then my dad, you know, he's the one that ventured off on bikes, and you know, he won the 2009 Summit ET Finals champion. And so to be able to experience that and enjoy it with them, I think that's what means more to me than anything. You know, I mean, it's awesome to do it, but to be able to do it with family, it's very special.
All right, let's talk about your round by round. And thanks to everybody out there sharing the show right now, retweeting all of that stuff, because it very much helps. We come on the air midweek and the algorithm is fighting us. But I appreciate everybody doing that. Like, we want to showcase the stars of the NHRA and Gaige. They're already comparing you, Gaige. I don't know who it is exactly. But they're already comparing you to the perfect Miami Dolphins of 1972.
Yeah. Well, we could hope so, but, you know, there's a lot of tough competitors and anything can happen.
Well, yeah, and you ran some tough competitors over the course of the day, and you were involved in kind of a crazy incident too, but you were off the track because you're over there in lane one. You, Marcus Hilton, Ryan Ayler, Kelly Klontz, that quad where Marcus Hilton went in the trap, and Kelly, fortunately, her mother taught her to look both ways when she crosses the street, which is what she said. And it's a great lesson for all you kids out there. Look both ways, and adults. But that was kind of a wild situation. But 675.4 at 2:01. That's a great way to start the day.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you know, first pass, you know, after waiting out all the rain and all that, you know, Andrew definitely had a handle on it. You know, I know he wasn't, I would say he was pushing it a little bit, but he didn't push it too much. And, you know, I was happy too. You know, I was cutting, I think, around 20s all day long, 20s, 30 lights. So I was keeping it consistent. But yeah, that was a good pass. I mean, I was in lane 3, and I think, it was me and then Kelly. So we both advanced. And when I came across, you know, I took a quick look like I always do to make sure no one was coming. And Marcus was quite a ways back. And the next thing I know, I took a second look and he was right there. So I was definitely, I knew I was going to clear him, but I was worried about Kelly. And that was really close. You know, I'm glad no one got hurt. You know, the safety safari guy, I'm glad Kelly didn't get hit. You know, like you said, her mom taught her to look both ways. So that was good. And, but yeah, that was definitely a wild one.
Very scary moment, honestly. And, you know, we're here to talk to you about the win. I'm sure NHRA is going to put some different protocols in place. But the chaos of the 4 wide, I haven't heard what Marcus said about why the brakes didn't work. Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. I don't know. Feel free to throw it out there if you did, but if you don't, stay away from it. But the bottom line is there's danger everywhere at a drag strip. Oh, yeah. And we're all having a good time. But the underlying theme is head on a swivel, because you just never know with race cars and bikes.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Marcus didn't make a full hit. So, I mean, that's the hard part. You know, when you're a rider and you don't make a full hit, I think you got out of it around 300, 400 feet. So in your mind, you're just focused on trying to get to the end of the track to not hold up the next pair and so on, or, you know, the program. And so he got, he was probably about 300 to 400 feet from the turnoff, and he went for brake. I mean, he was probably going 80 miles an hour or so, and he had no front brakes, and then he tried for the rear brake, and he said it kind of was mushy and just like started skidding and doing weird stuff. And so after that, he was just trying to dodge us, you know, and that at that point as a rider, it's hard. You know, you kind of go in a panic mode. You got to think really fast what to do. You don't know which way other riders are going or if they're going to stop once they see you, type of thing. So yeah, we all got really lucky, you know. I mean, he got lucky that he missed us, you know, and he wasn't going too fast. So he didn't get hurt or the bike, or, you know, it couldn't have gone any better or worse, I should say.
Yeah, crazy stuff. But no harm, no foul. We were able to advance and get through that moment. Second quad, you and Kelly. Great for Kelly to advance. Matt Smith and Jerry. Jerry's 005. Matt's 004. I think you've got a little bit of a rep going because those guys really got up on it. You and Matt advanced. And Tony Pedregon said it on the show. Like, this is the matchup I want to see. The young kid, Gaige, clear head, Vance and Hines, Andrew going like this, and Matt Smith, who is on a mission to separate himself from everyone with a 7th championship. You guys both transferred, but everybody is eyeballing that potential rivalry. Tell us about the run.
Yeah, that was definitely it was a hard run. I mean, with Jerry Savoy, and Matt Smith, they're both always on the tree when they need to be. And Matt Smith, I mean, he's getting that Suzuki figured out. I mean, he was running faster and faster every pass. And just to being able to line up, next to those two and Kelly, I mean, they're all tough competitors. And I knew when I was up on the pre-stage, I kind of took a look over, and Matt was looking over at me, so I knew he was going to be on it. I mean, he's a tough competitor. He takes, this is what he does. He's a 6-time champ for a reason. So I mean, I definitely I was hoping to be a little better on the tree, but luckily, Vance and his motorcycle basically overpowered everyone, outran everyone. And I got lucky that round because I put it in high gear, and I don't know if I accidentally bumped the kill switch out or what, but I got really lucky. My kill tether fell out, so the motor just shut off. And luckily enough, I had enough momentum to get Matt got me on that one. So luckily, that's where the 4-wide, came into play and actually benefited me. Matt beat me essentially, but I was still able to advance to the final. So I got very lucky there.
So everybody is like, Joe, technically he's not undefeated, but yes, in 4-wide he advanced. So yes, he's won 2 races. It sets up the final round. You, Matt, Eddie, Steve Johnson. So players, right? Matt and Steve have got a rivalry, and Eddie and Matt have got a rivalry, and you're new, but you don't have a rivalry, but everybody's going to have one with you soon if you keep running like this. You're 13 on the tree, 671, 202. You blistered it for the win.
Yeah. I mean, couldn't ask for a better package there. Basically, I like being around the teens, so I was happy with that. And then Andrew, he put a little something in the bike, and it worked. Went out there. I think we had 700s on Matt that runnered up. So I mean, that's quite a bit. And but going up to the line, I was definitely nervous. I raced my teammate Eddie Krawick at Gainesville, and that alone was nerve-wracking just running him. But then having to run Matt Smith and Steve Johnson out all at one time, I mean, those were all the heavy hitters. So I was definitely nervous, but I'm glad I came out on top. It helps me a lot knowing, I got a very good motorcycle. So to be able to, it kind of takes a little pressure off my shoulders on that aspect, to where I got to apply all the pressure to myself to perform and ride. So, I mean, that was a picture perfect run for me. I mean, we looked at data and everything, and it was straight as an arrow. I mean, it was an awesome final round, especially 4-wide against all 3 of them.
You got the win. You got a 4-wide trophy. You're undefeated on the season, but now we're headed to Chicago, and this is a track. Like I'm saying it flat out to everybody. We're trying to save this track. We're trying to save this market. This is an opportunity for you guys to go put on a show. Give us a little preview for Route 66 Raceway and just everything, like how much effort everybody is bringing to this one, knowing what it means for drag racing as we try to save a facility that is already built and amazing and awesome. And we haven't run a national event there for 4 years.
Yeah, I'm excited for Route 66. I live about an hour from there, so I got a lot of family and friends going to be there. And it sucks that they haven't had the track open, and I hope they don't shut it down. I hope they keep it open or open it back open for the normal people as well, the test and tunes and all that. So it's a special one. I mean, like I said, it's been shut down for 4 years. I mean, they talked about leveling it, and I'm glad they haven't. So Route 66 definitely holds a special place, like I said, with family and friends. And I hear it's a fast track. I've never personally ran down that track, so I'm excited to go there. And and we got the Missions Foods Challenge. So I think there's a lot, that's going to bring a lot of spectators in, which is good. It'll be good for the track, hopefully get the publicity again. And I hope it stays open.
That's great. Yeah, there was a near fist fight in the online Zoom Pro Stock not Pep Boys, but All-Star Call Out press conference yesterday. So there's all kinds of extra stuff going on. It is going to be great. Gaige, I know you're working, so I'm going to let you get back to work. I say, what is that, a safety vest behind you? Like your stuff?
Oh, yeah. So never know what I got to get into.
Well, you're a pipe fitter, right?
Yep. But, going to the different mills, they all have different safety codes and everything else. So I got to be ready for everything.
Everybody loves the fact that you're out there, like, working 9 to 5, and then you go race. I think that's great. That's what our sport is. and you're doing a great job. And yes, I'm going to keep saying you're undefeated until it's not the truth anymore. Good luck next weekend. Thanks for coming on WFO.
Thanks, Joe. See you next weekend.
Appreciate you, Gaige. Thank you so much. Gaige Herrera with us here on WFO Radio. His sister races, like that is a racing family. They're into the Lucas Oil Series stuff, and the guy ends up on a Vance & Hines motorcycle, and he is just doing a great job. All right, we got Steve Williams and we got Gary Stinnett. They are just seconds away. Before we bring these guys on, I just want to make sure you know the reason they're coming on is to talk a little bit about Foggit, which is a high-performance fogging oil that is to protect the inside of your high-performance racing engine. We're going to talk with them about engine building and .90 racing and all of this stuff. But if you want to support WFO, these guys have got a great contingency program as well. So let's bring them on. First, we're going to bring on Gary because we got the thing. We were working real hard to get him on the air, and it looks like he's on the air. Gary, how are you?
I'm good today. How are you?
Good, and we hear him too. And if anybody could have seen prior to the show, the feverish way we got it all figured out, but we got it all figured out. I'm super excited. And look who is off to the side of the road somewhere, Mr. Steve Williams. What's up, Steve?
Hello, Joe. How are you?
I'm great. So thank you both for joining me and going through the effort of coming on the show. We have 5 Super Comp World Championships among the 3 of us, which is pretty amazing. That's not an easy category, to say the least. Gary, you got it 4 times. Steve, you got it 1.
Out that Gary's got 80% of those, Joe. So I'm trying to catch up to him. So it used to be like Kyle Seipel when we'd be standing around talking, and Peter Biondo would be there, and Gary and Kyle would go, "What? So what do we have now between all of us? Like 12 world championships, you know?"
Right. No, it's amazing, but it's such a hard category. It's such a hard category. It's the category that, in my opinion, gets, because, you know, every car is the same and they're all 6-second cars that are running 890s for the most part. So it's really hard to explain. But when you get down to the nuts and the bolts and all the different elements to be successful, it is so challenging. And Steve, we had you on when you won your championship a couple of years ago to talk a little bit about it. Very emotional. Gary, you've won 4 of them. What is it, Gary, about the .90 stuff that is so challenging for you as a person and just in general?
Well, the challenge, I guess, is learning all of the weather. I mean, it's you have to figure out the car first and get a car that repeats and does what you want it to do and be able to work great everywhere you go. I mean, from Denver to Pomona. And then learning the weather for all the different situations you're in and all the different altitudes and humidity curves and track temperatures and wind. So, you know, I've had a few professional crew chiefs in my trailer from fuel teams or even pro stock teams or whatever. And once they realize the massive amount of information we have to dissect between runs and try to tweak and indicate and just figure out the combination, they have a whole new respect for it. I mean, you ask like Robert Hyde or any of those guys, once you study it a little bit, it's just as difficult as all the other professional categories. It's just difficult in a different way.
And Steve, you'd agree with that?
Yeah, I would. I think, you know, not to repeat what Gary said, but the one thing that I think goes unnoticed is that if you think about the equipment, the cars, the engines, you know, we didn't have that type of equipment 20 years ago. And then the second is, I'm telling you, all of the racers that come out of the junior dragster program that come up along. I mean, it used to be, you know, when we were racing in the 90s, everybody was building their own cars and you would kind of move up through bracket racing. But, you know, now when you get to the racetrack between the guys and girls we race against, everybody there I think the competition, A, is better now than it's ever been. And B, I'm just telling you, the equipment is unbelievable. You couldn't get a dragster like Gary has or I have or some of the people we compete against. You couldn't buy a car like that. You either had to build it or piece it together. So I think it's a combination of everything, like Gary said. I mean, everybody's gotten better equipment and the racers are better. So every year, I think the class gets more difficult in super gas too.
Well, specialized. And that's why we want to have you on. We're here to talk about Foggit because I wanted to put a little meat on the bone. I've been telling everybody about Foggit and the high performance fogging oil. And the first time I ever heard the term Foggit down, Pat Topolinsky was telling me about what they do at KB at the end of the day. This is 10 years ago. And I'd like, well, I don't know what that means. And, sometimes I feel confident to say, hey, stop. I don't know what that means. Much more nowadays. But back then, I just I didn't understand. Given the specialized nature of everything, and you're going, Gary, you said it a couple of weeks ago, we were having a conversation. It used to be a racing engine. You could build one or get one between $15,000 and $20,000. Now it's considerably higher because everything is so specialized and parts and pieces cost more and everyone's going so much faster. You've got to protect this thing. So how are you inspired to come up with this product, right? Like a lot of racers come up with products, whether it's a thing to hang an air hose on the inside of the trailer. This is your specialty. This is your area. You build engines for a living. What was the eureka moment? Like, man, I got to solve this problem. I got to come up with something.
Basically, it's the old necessity is the mother of invention. Steve and I have been we've been racing together for 25 years. And, he and I both have been doing it for 40 years. And you saw engines that were coming back in the shop to be rebuilt and that the cylinder wells were rusted. And we've even had them. And every machine shop that hones blocks, you can hone a block and set it down and you're going to build it in a couple of weeks. And you look back and it's already started rusting. So, the iron oxide, all it needs is some moisture and some oxygen, and it's going to turn back to rust no matter what you do. So we tried all the different products like everybody did. I mean, if you start way back and, talking about fogging engines in the 80s, you used household lubricants, the old blue and yellow can or whatever you used, and they never worked very well or very long. So over 15 or 20 years, I think I tried every brand of fogging oil, marine fogging oil. I did homework and research and found out what NASCAR was using, made in Germany, and we tried them all. And then you end up with making your own concoction at some point in time. Lots and lots of racers, as I go around and try to sell, they go, oh, I use transmission fluid with vinegar, or you know what I mean? And you're like ketchup and, salt water, whatever they've come up with, they tried, right? And so, of course, being a guy, just like Steve and I, we started experimenting, making our own stuff. And eventually you got a little bit more serious and got better at it. When we finally decided, look, there's a market for this back in 2019. So Steve knew who to go to and went to a chemical factory and told him what we wanted to do. And I showed him the prototype that we've been working on. And it was kind of funny because they're like, well, that's going to be too expensive to mass produce. And Steve said, we don't care what it costs. We want the best, and then they're like, well, you can't use that chemical. It causes cancer in California. Okay, well, then let's fix that. So another year and a half of R&D with a professional chemical company and sent us back samples. We finally got on something that was phenomenal. And we got the viscosity right. We got everything right. And it's turned out to actually be big and better than we thought. We've been able to use it for other purposes. Machining in the shop and protecting other items besides cylinder walls and valves. It works on guns. It works on all kinds of industrial machine equipment. And so it's kind of taken off in different directions than we actually had originally anticipated.
Steve, elaborate on that a little bit, because you're, and if I've got this right, please say so. And if not, but Gary is like the innovator, the engine builder, the mad scientist, and you're the product guy. You've been an executive at K&N for many years. You know what it takes to bring a product to the masses. It's not easy. I've seen Gary's warehouse. There's all kinds of stuff in there. It's a great challenge. So give me your side of this story, which I think is great, because at the end of the night, everybody does the same thing. They put their machine away. They love it. They close the door, and that's where some of the bad stuff may end up happening. So what's your side of this story?
Yeah, Gary described it. And I mean, I would complain to him. I'm talking, this goes back 10 years, that I start seeing more and more witness marks or dark stains in the cylinder walls. And, we used to think it was maybe just, the MLS gaskets, the multi-layer gaskets, that water was seeping in. And I would undo the radiator cap, and like Gary said, we'd use household, maybe a little mixture with, trans fluid. And so we tried addressing it, but we could never solve the problem. And interestingly enough, when my daughter Shelby, we'd been bracket racing, and we ended up, she wanted to run a real car. So in stock eliminator, Gary, of course, had built the motors for, Shelby's car. And prior to 19, we actually had the very problem of rusting in the cylinder walls, to the point where it got packed up in the rings and the engine wouldn't start. And, it had been running, and we had ran it at Tucson, and unfortunately it sat in the trailer about 6 weeks and went to run it at Pomona. So to Gary's point, it really came out of necessity, Joe. And the funny part about when we decided to actually take the concoction that Gary had kind of started and formulated, the R&D lab was all the way up in North Dakota, and I showed up in shorts, of course, and it's like 20 degrees below zero. So typical California guy, forgetting about the weather. But, the devil's always in the details. And, all through my years at K&N and product development, commercializing an idea, I would tell you, is always the hardest, because, first of all, you get dragged into this world where, especially right during COVID, where supply chain issues and cans and aluminum versus all the different ways that you can present the product. And so, it was really a labor to get it that first year and get our first products out. But it's really exciting because, first of all, to Gary's point, we didn't sacrifice anything in the materials. We put the best of the best, because the reason it says world-class engine protection is because Gary and I believe that it's the best thing you can use to fog your motor, to protect the engine, protect the ring seal in between uses, make those rings last longer. I mean, look how expensive cylinder prep is, and how expensive rings cost. And you have to have it. I mean, you want the best parts you can put in your engine. So, for $20, it's more expensive than, household lubricants you can put in there. But the second thing I would tell you, the real key was getting the right consistency and the right viscosity to stick to the cylinder walls. Because when you open the throttle blades and you spray the engine down, when you turn it over, that was the hardest thing, because other things are, they're either too thin and so it just drains off the cylinder wall, you still have the same problem, or they're so thick that it doesn't get down through the intake manifold and even get on the wall. So, great. But it's been, honestly, we've been friends for so many years, and we just kept our head down. And then now the racers, we've signed up now over 1,400 racers at a division level, and, you win, you get paid. And so it's kind of fun going into business, with a really good friend, but at the same time, we feel like we're just at the very beginning. And then coming on board, you're helping us, and, we're getting ready to get your motor together, and we're going to have dyno days back there.
Oh man. Well, listen, so that's a different story for a different day, and a whole host of other stresses. And look, somebody texted him, Steve, don't do it, Steve, don't do it. He's blacked out right there, but now he's back. And I appreciate it, and I'm excited about it. But in the end, though, this is, you mentioned those contingency racers and the divisional program. I don't want to compare it to toilet paper, guys, but really it's the kind of thing like you have to have. It's just making that pitch to people. You've gone through all of this. I wouldn't have to be going through my engine if I was smart enough to not let it get all gummed up and not run the car for so long and just done some preventative maintenance. So, Gary, why don't you tell everybody out there your version of the appropriate way to use Foggit on your bracket engine, your super high dollar racing engine. You can do it a couple of ways, but you've got a great way of just saying it, because it sounds so simple. And to me, it's the way you end the night, right? Like, you've put it away, it's in the trailer, you're about to leave. What do you do?
So, if it's a dragster or take the scoop off and the air filter off, and you have your buddy hold the throttle open or run the starter button. And so you just spray it. You hold the throttle wide open and you spray down through the carburetor for 8 seconds, 2 seconds in each venturi, and let it off, and you're done. Turn power off, ready to go eat, right? If it's going to be stored, like when we take an engine off the dyno every week and we put them in a wooden crate to ship them all over, when we ship them even overseas. And when you do, the easier way then is with the header off, you can just bump it over till the exhaust valve is open and you can see the piston dome. Then you can see the cylinder wall and you just spray it in there for 3 or 4 seconds. If you don't have the header off, you're going to put this engine away. You're going to put this car away, let's say for a month or 3 months or the winter. Just take the spark plugs out and go through the spark plug hole, shoot it in there, blast it in there about 3 or 4 seconds, put the plug back in, and then just buzz the motor over a little bit. Don't start it. Now, there are people that have to do it by themselves. They don't have a friend or a wife or somebody that can run the starter button for them. And so the question I get quite often is, can you do it running? Yeah. You just, while the engine's running, rev it up to 2,000 or 3,000 and spray it down through there. You're probably going to have to spray it another, instead of 8 seconds, you're probably going to spray it 12, 14, 15 seconds or until it starts lightly smoking out the header with it running, because it's going to burn that stuff off. But if you can, I got some creative people that have like made a starter button out of a foot pedal that just plugs in with a speaker jack to firewall so they can do it by themselves. We also have at times on my last bracket car, I drilled the intake manifold and put a ball cock valve, just like the alcohol guys do with lean outs.
Yes.
And just turned it open where I didn't have to hold the throttle, put the can through the ball cock valve, sprayed while I spun the motor over. And so probably 20 some years ago, one of my racing partners, Dennis Mush, at the beginning of the year, I said, I don't care how many guys come by the trailer when we're done at the end of the day and they're ready to go to dinner. David Ramp used to drive his little Metro up. Beep, 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 beep. Let's go. I'm hungry. Let's go eat. I said, no matter who comes up and bothers us, I said, you make me fog the engines, right? So hold me accountable. So if you got a wife or a son or a buddy or whatever, hold each other accountable. Make sure you fog them every single night before you put them in a trailer. And if you think about it, I use this analogy all the time. It's like the iced tea effect. You can set a glass of iced tea down wherever you're at. Even when the people tell me, well, I race in Vegas or I race in Phoenix and there's no humidity. That glass will sweat on the outside because it's colder on the inside than it is on the outside. We have the exact reverse effect with a cylinder wall. You drive that car up in the trailer or on an open trailer and it sits there, you shut it off. The nighttime comes in, the temperature drops down to 50 or 60 degrees, or even this time of year can be down to 39 at some places at night, right? That cylinder wall is hot and it's going to sweat on the inside like a glass iced tea does on the outside. It's going to have condensation. And all you need, the other part about we haven't talked about, but I like to touch on is that the fuel we burn in these engines is hydrocarbon based racing fuel. And so that means there's hydrogen in that. When there's also trace amounts of sulfur. You have sulfur in the oil, you have sulfur in the gas. So when you combust sulfur, it turns in with some humidity or some water, basically, to sulfuric acid. So now we have sulfuric acid in the combustion chamber, along with nitric acid from the nitrogen, and then some organic acids. And you add all that, and because it's a hydrocarbon-based combustion engine, the hydrocarbon, when it's combusted, turns into water. So we have water and we have acid. Now you have sulfuric acid. And that's what rusts the inside of the headers even. People that, they wonder why their headers rust so bad because you just coated them with sulfuric acid, And so any amount of humidity, just outside in ambient air, the amount of humidity aggravates it. I mean, if you're a red-blooded male, you've probably started a charcoal grill at one time in your life. Yes. And said, it's not burning fast enough. I'm ready to eat. You grab that bottle and you squirt lighter fluid on it. Boom. That's what happens when the humidity rolls in and you already have slight amount of sulfur, combusted sulfuric acid. Bring in some more water. It's like spraying fuel on a fire. That's why they rust so severely and rust fast. And people say, I had a bracket guy told me last year, I don't need that stuff. I barely shut my engine off. I race every week. They'll rust in a week. They'll rust overnight. So you really need to fog the engines every night you put them away. If you just can't do it or you forgot, you were in a hurry, when you get home and unload it, fog it. Don't say, well, I missed my opportunity. There's never a bad time to do it.
Okay, we got a couple people. Jeff, sorry to disappoint you, Jeff. Like I should have had Gary send some pictures, right, of the rust and stuff from your deal. But you know what? we don't need the visual. Okay. I've got 5 world championships of super comp racing out there, and your words should speak volumes. They're worth like 1,000 pictures. But look, Earl Nichols wants to know where to get the stuff. And I guess that's important too. Let's throw that out there. Like, how does this transaction happen for the bracket racer, for the .90 racer, for the WFO listener out there who's like, all right, man, like this sounds actually really smart. Where are you guys selling it? And how is that expanding? Because this is also about the business, not just the product.
Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, Joe, the fastest way is to go directly on our website at foggit.com. And we have a division rep. So for racers and NHRA, class racing, stock, super stock, and everybody that races NHRA, the fastest way is that we have a division rep in every division that at the racetrack has the product. And you can sign up for contingency and buy the product directly there. The second is that for just anybody that races and bracket races that doesn't NHRA race, it's foggit.com. You can buy it directly from us, and it ships directly to you right off of our website. And at the same time, we do have a distributor, and we're expanding our distribution. And so it's going to get more and more available. And, and eventually, we believe that this actually has the opportunity to be in retail stores. So the main thing is to get it out in the hands of the racers first. There's 2 things I wanted to point out. First of all, Gary and I both ran this. We ran the actual product a full season before we released the product. We wanted to stand behind the product. Think of it as a pilot run. It's the first time I started the season 17.5 inches of vacuum, and I had 17.5 inches at the end of the season. So literally no ring seal drop off. I would normally lose 2 or 3 inches of vacuum, which is the best way to know if the rings are still sealing. And then second of all, we didn't skimp on any of the products when we built this. It's the reason we stand behind it is because we really wanted to make sure that it did what we said it was going to do. What do we say it's going to do? It's going to protect your engine against this surface rust. And anybody that's ever washed a block, taken it and dried it down, you see that little bit of rust
immediately.
That starts almost immediately. Well, guess what? That's the exact same thing happens when you shut the engine off.
Wow, that's a great analogy. And Earl Nichols out there, our buddy, right? Earl's like, is there a discount when you mentioned WFO? No, Earl, there's no discount. Just buy the product, get it. What about the contingency program? It's divisional contingency program. You've got the reps. I know the Division 2 rep, I think, is Todd Barton, right? But maybe name check some of the other guys out there for the Lucas Oil Series racers that are watching.
So Division 1 is Jack Sapanic.
Okay.
Division 1. Division 2 is Todd Barton. Division 3 is Rock Haas. Division 4 is Vernon Rowland and Parker DeVore. I do Division 5. And Division 6 and 7, we have George Scott and then, of course, Steve and Greg Boutte.
That's great. So people can get it right at the track, get into the contingency. And if you run the decal, use the product, you're also getting paid, which I think is great. What'd you say, Steve? 1,400 racers, over 1,000 racers?
Yeah, I just looked. It's 1,421 have signed up already for divisional posting. Yep.
All right. Yeah, so
we were considering deleting Sherman Adcock. He's draining our bank account.
He's draining NHRA's bank account too. What about that, guys? Let's talk about this guy. Is 4 for 4 in divisionals. He's 1 out of 2 in nationals. Like, the guy's having an unbelievable year. Is he a lock for the championship? What do you think?
Well, I think so, but I mean, it would. If you got 5 wins, you pretty much could start writing your speech. I doubt that anybody's lost a championship with 5 wins, but keep in mind, if the wheels come off and he doesn't win another round, then it's not the same. But if he just keeps being solid the rest of the year, he's going to have it locked up.
What about you, Steve?
I mean, you look at, we know Sherman and raced against him, and there's no way he's going to go out first round in the last 3 or 4 races he's got to claim. I mean, could somebody, honestly, I think his other race he claimed is like a semi, or didn't he go into the semis or the final at the
Gator National? The Gator Nationals was a 3rd round loss, right? Like, that's his worst race of the year, was a 3rd round loss.
So, I mean, he's going to win. He's got at least, 3 other races to claim. He's going to be, fourth round or better. I mean, honestly, he's going to be up there in the 720s or 730s. That's what he's going to hang on the board.
That's amazing.
Could it possibly happen? Look, after what we saw last year, which I didn't think I'd ever see in my life, that was a run that, only happens ever so often. But when you think about it, you're going to run out of races if you think you're going to beat Sherman Adcock. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah. Walt Walker out there says, I'm late, but I'm signing up next week. Way to go, Walt. Thank you very much.
Keep in mind that there's thousands and thousands of racers that don't run NHRA. So you can just go to Foggit.com, or you can call my business at Stinnett Racing. We ship it every day also. So it doesn't have to be just through the divisionals,
Yeah.
In fact, we do some bracket racing. We're going to be at Luke Bagacki's door car race in Benton, Illinois in about 3 or 4 weeks. And we'll be selling it there at that track and doing a small contingency program there. And so, and then engine shops, we've really got it out to a lot of shops like Stanfield Racing and Jeff Taylor. And I can't think of all of them right now, but several shops. And like Greg Stanfield keeps reordering and says he loves it for everything. I mean, they use it in the drill, mills, lathes, Riemann valve guides. Like Steve said a minute ago, washing a block, the moment it comes out of jet wash, you hit the cylinder walls with Foggit so they don't rust, and then use it as assembly, like cleaning the cylinder walls before you put the rings on the piston and put them in. So if you have an engine shop, chances are we've already got to them or need to get to them, and you as a customer. Ultimately, what we would like to see happen is that every single high-performance racing shop, dirt track, whatever, is when the customer comes to pick up his motor, the engine builder hands him a can of Foggit with his engine every time, right? That's where we'd like it to, where the end customer can either buy it from his engine builder or buy it online.
Yep. And it is available, Joe. You can actually go on Amazon and our distributor EDO. It's available on Amazon Prime too. So you can ship it directly to your house. Yep.
All right. So let's go one more angle, guys, because listen, this is an entomercial, right? It's an entertainment commercial for Foggit. Like I got world champions. We're talking racing. We're goofing on Sherman, but people it's a good product, but it's for fogging high performance racing engines. And there's only so many of those out there in the universe, a lot of them, but there's only so many. You mentioned the machine shop. You mentioned using it like in the process of making chips. To be able to do that. But you also mentioned the firearm industry, and that is one that is just massive. And there are all kinds of different products and oils and this and that. And you've already had some experience where the people who are the gunsmiths of the world are liking the product. To me, that's one where, if I've got 10,000 listeners, 8,000 of them can relate to that one way or another. So how about Foggit on firearms?
Yeah, we are actually, I guess I kind of let cat out of the bag here, but we're working on a second formula for firearms. Probably 8-9 months away, but I think we'll definitely have by this time next year. But it was just a deal where almost a lot of car guys have guns, and as guys, what do? We experiment. We want to try it. In fact, it's been fun. The people that call me once a week, somebody will call and go, "Hey, I tried Foggit on this and that. It's the best bug cleaner off my dually I ever saw." They keep coming up with new ideas to try it and use it on. Well, one of them was guns. And it turns out that they clean their gun with their normal product and then go back over it with Foggit. And the first thing they say is they got a whole bunch more black carbon off of it. And the gun is better. And it's not oily feeling. It's not slimy. So, yeah, we're, going down another path. So.
But I did want to point out, Joe, to your point, look, I use it in everything. I use it in my weed eater, which they never want to start. And the one thing we haven't mentioned is that we did put an accelerant in this. Gary said it burns right off. It burns right off. It will not foul the plugs. But I'm telling you, like Shelby Super Stalker, when we don't run for 4 or 5 weeks, you don't even have to crack the throttle. You don't have to pump it full of fuel. There's an accelerant in Foggit, and it fires right up. So that little weed eater, man, I spray it while it's running and I shut it off. When I go to use it again, it fires right up. This is for any type of motor. I'm talking jet skis, any, recreational vehicles, side-by-sides,
tractors.
Moving into the power sports side. Look at, if you've got something that has an engine in it and you're going to store it, you need to spray it down. If you don't use our product, use something. Don't just shut it off and let it rust. You'll be amazed at how much better and how much longer it's going to last.
Wow, that's interesting. And the competitive side of it, that accelerant. Round 1 is Friday. Like, let's pretend it's the U.S. Nationals, right? So Monday is the goal. Final round Monday afternoon. First round is like what, Thursday for you guys?
Wednesday.
Yes. So you're going to be shutting the car off mid eliminations multiple times and firing it up, warming it up, and then going racing. And you want it to be exactly the same. Anything you can do to keep all the parameters as consistent as is possible. And this is part of that, right? Like that sulfuric acid.
Well, I'll give you
it as a competitive advantage.
Let me give you my actual numbers from Indy last year. Wednesday, out of the trailer with the engine been fogged for weeks, my Superstock car went 10.020. The next day, I put it away that night. I fogged it that night. The next day, it went 10.01 with a 9. It picked up 1,000s. I put it away that night, fogged it the next morning. The third day, it went 10.01 with a 9. And so, I mean, you don't have to touch the gas pedal. I just coasted out of the trailer, get in and hit the button, and it fires right up. We've had some pro stock teams test. They've been previously using, like a Marvel Mist Royal or something, and complaining that when they would fog theirs at night, they'd have to put in warm-up plugs in the morning and warm it up and then change out the plugs. So they dynoed us back to back. They made dyno pulls, fogged it with Foggit, went to lunch, came back, fired it up, and made the exact same power. It lost nothing. It does not foul plugs, and you don't have to worry about the car being slow the first run or changing the plugs or any of that. It's that good.
That is great stuff. No, I a performance enhancer. And if we've got Steve is getting a call or a text, that's no big deal. Let's talk a little bit about the process again of getting anything made, right, Gary? Like, when you look at this, you got to feel certain pride. Like, man, that's my product, man. That's something that you designed, you made, you and Steve, you brought it. It's on the shelf. People are using it. The Foggit logo is all over these racetracks. Like, I know everyone's trying to, do well, make money, protect engines, but just as a life thing, I watch Shark Tank. Okay. I like anybody that brings a product to the market, like, you've got to feel pretty stoked about seeing everybody using this out there.
It is. We're very proud of it, and it was exciting, and it's kind of overwhelming. I mean, when we went, first stop was a chemical company, and then they gave us this book, and it showed all the processes to get to where we are today. And I remember looking at it thinking, my God, that's going to take forever. R&D and manufacturing and, processing and all that. So it took 6 months to do a patent search, right? And then it took another 1.5 years to get our patent, so we've got it patented. And then you have trademarks and copyrights. And so Steve handled all that. That's his specialty. And then along the line, we had to choose which can, how many ounces, and you have to figure out a label. We went through many different colors and logos and designs, and had a lot of help with that. And then you got to, and then the problem was that was in the middle of the pandemic. So we decided on what nozzles to use. Well, they're back ordered, they're overseas, and they're going to be weeks or months before we can get tops. And then right when we were getting done with it, right when we got done,
right, like everything on here was a choice that you guys had to make, right? Yeah. Like, do you want the good can or do you want the crappy can? Do you want the good nozzle or you want the crappy nozzle? Should it have a little red hose or not? Like that, it had to be so interesting to go through. Sorry to geek out on something that's probably not interesting to everybody, but to me, like that you went down the road to make something like this in every aspect of it. I don't know. Yeah. I find it interesting.
Well, I mean, like Steve went and saw the nozzle room. I didn't go, but there's like thousands of choices of nozzles. I mean, it's like almost unlimited. And then you have to decide, you want them in a 6-pack, you want them in a 12-pack. And then the chemical has to be shipped to another company that puts it in the can and puts it in the box. And then how, do you do a half a semi-load? How many do we get? We got 30,000 at the first hit, and we got 40,000 on our next order. And yeah, there's a lot to that. And I could not have ever gotten to this point without Steve as a partner.
That is
that's what he knew about. So it's a big process, and yeah, well, the funny part, well, it wasn't funny, but I got COVID real bad and was on the ventilator. When I finally got off, and after 4 days of fentanyl and being crazy, I woke up one day and I go, we got a new product. I couldn't even remember the name of it, what it was. I just knew we had something. And 24 hours later, I go, it's a can. And another day later, I'm like, Foggit. And then I was like, oh my God, it's coming to my shop right now on a semi. So I, after a month in the hospital, I was out the shop on a walker with an oxygen bottle as they were offloading it with two of our forklifts, putting it in the warehouse. And yeah, it was quite a moment.
Yeah, Steve, you almost lost your business partner as soon as you started a business.
I'll tell you what, that was tough. And I call Gary the miracle guy. So, you know, a lot of people have been through some tough times, but I'll tell you what, very few people have come back from what he, you know, as far as COVID. And yep, he's definitely a miracle.
Yeah, no, he is. And I heard some, you know, the detailed version of the story, just amazing. Like anytime Steve, he's here, right? Like in front of him, let's talk about him. But anytime I talk to Gary, it's like, that's the first thing I think of. Like, this guy is not supposed to be here, except he's here. And I don't know, it's kind of a weird vibe, right? Because I always get excited. Like, hey man, we get to have this conversation because there was no guarantee it was going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, you know, everybody has, you know, different things that they believe in, some faith-based, some not, you know, I happen to be faith-based, and I'll tell you what, I mean, you know, God definitely had plans for Gary. I'll just tell you that. It's for sure.
He said we had to sell Foggit.
We did not just say God says buy Foggit, guys. That's a joke. It's humor.
That's Gary's a better salesman than I am. So, you know, what can I say?
Couple of comments. Look, Alan Reinhart from his new YouTube channel, which everybody hopefully has subscribed or will subscribe to Alan's. I use it to protect blocks, cranks waiting to be assembled, right? That's what you said, Gary, with a swap cooler in the shop. It's a necessity. That's when you're protecting. And Williams says, if you could set up a marketing for engine builders XYZ and ship to every rebuilt motor with a can, I can only imagine they will buy more. I agree. You guys are just scratching the surface of what's possible. And right now we're in the education phase. Like, why? And I think we've done a really good job explaining why, and we're going to put this out on the web. Any final thoughts? Anything you think that maybe we did not cover yet, Steve?
No, I think, you know, as far as Foggit's concerned, you know, I mean, do something, you know, don't just shut that engine off. And, you know, we built this product and we're supporting, you know, not only racers, but, you know, do use something. And then on the racing side, just want to let you know, just because Sherman's running away doesn't mean we're not stopping from chasing him. So, you know.
There it is. Right. Well, Earl Nichols said, never say never.
Hey,
right. You know, never say never. People could go on a run. Like he's going on a run. Someone out west could go on a run. What about you, Gary? Any final thoughts? Anything else you want to throw into the conversation before we part ways here? Could be about Foggit. It could be drag racing related, period. Anything else out there you want to throw out in front of the WFO universe?
Oh, I just want to thank you for having us on, and we're glad to partner up with you. And I would like to see, you know, everybody, I want it to become a worldwide global product. I think everybody out there has a lawnmower, a farm tractor, a motorcycle, Harleys, classic cars, hot rods. And if you'd like Reinhart said, if you got a block or a crank sitting around, you need to use Foggit. Everything that is iron needs to have Foggit, and cylinder heads, valve jobs in the shop. I mean, in Kansas, it gets so much humidity in the summertime. You do a valve job. If you don't spray the seats, you come in the next day and they rusted. You just machined them and they rust overnight before you can even get the engine done. So use it. Think broad. And yeah, we're in the education and awareness business right now. But I can see this 5 and 10 years down the road where every shop you go in the United States will have it.
Yeah, I agree. You mentioned the hot rod guys. The people who drive their car every other week, maybe. You know, what are you supposed to do here to protect the engine, right? And up until now, nothing. Just it is what it is. Now they've got something to do, and I would imagine a lot of them will choose to do it. Like, I think it's cool. Like it's just part of your hot rod culture moment. All right, guys.
It was a lot of fun when you get calls from guys, you know, like at Robert Yates Racing, or You get calls from big stores. We've already sent samples to some of the big retail stores. That's really exciting when these people start calling you up that you thought in a million years would never, ever call and look at your product.
Well, at the Engine Performance Expo that you guys were at, right? It was a big deal. You were turning a lot of heads. It was very interesting to see all these high-level engine builders, like superstars of engine building, saying to, what is it? What do you do? What do you have? What is it? Why does it work? And because the necessity of that had not yet been addressed. And you could see it by the way these guys asked you questions.
It's fun. It's fun when, big name engine builders like John Causey or somebody like that, and they go, man, I've been waiting on this product for 10 years. Where's it been? So
great job. Way to take the plunge, right? Because there was a risk also. Like everybody's got these great ideas but only some people execute on the idea and make it happen. And that's where you and Steve kind of are perfect partners on this deal. All right, guys, Steve, I'll let you get back on the road. Gary, I'll let you get back to building engines. But thank you very much for joining us on the show. And we will keep preaching the word.
Okay, thanks.
Good.
All right, guys, take care. See you later. There goes Steve Williams. There goes Gary Stinnett. Great job talking about Foggit here on WFO Radio. And guys, this is what it is. It's education. We're all in this hobby, and when you wash a block, you can watch it rust right in front of you. And that is the best analogy for most people, except that's happening inside your engine too, at some level. So hopefully you like it and you like where they're coming from, and go to Foggit.com. Remember, it's on Amazon, or go see your division person and sign up for the contingency program. They've gone in, they've dived in. All right, put your comments in the comment section, guys. Let me tell you about some of the other people who make WFO possible, like Frank Hawley and Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School. The Dragster Adventure, they were just out there in Vegas. The Dragster Adventure, you can drive a dragster. You don't need anything. You show up with nothing, just the clothes on your back, and they provide everything. And you have an experience of driving a dragster. It's amazing. Go to frankhawley.com. Tell them you heard about it on WFO Radio. Speaking of machining, like who's going to do this anyway? That's a big question. And we need the next generation. Samtech.edu, the School of Automotive Machinists and Technology. Boy, I didn't sound so great when I said it right there, but it's so true. Samtech.edu. If you're a relatively young person, you're a veteran, they are approved to train veterans under the GI Bill. Maybe you're looking for a career. Maybe you're looking for a career change. Investigate. Call Brian Massengill. Say, Joe Castello told me to call you, Brian. You, Brian, tell me about the school down there in the Houston, Texas area. I can tell you I'm talking with a lot of people out there, and whether they're crew members or they're CNC programmers who know nothing about drag racing, a lot of them are coming up through samtech.edu. And then there's Marvin Rodak, my coffee guy, 817-924-6821. RodaksCoffeeandGrills.com. He makes hot sauces, his own stuff, spice rubs, his own stuff. He's located in Fort Worth, Texas. He ships everywhere. Give him a call. Have the conversation. What kind of coffee do you like? They've got drag racing themed blends, Bang the Blower, WFO Radio, Schumacher, all these different blends. Give him a call, 817-924-6821. And then there's our Patreon, which is a VIP backstage pass to WFO Radio. And we've got all kinds of interesting stuff popping up on there. Like once upon a time, there was nothing. And now there's a bunch. The Hear It From Heiner Pro Stock Crew Chief Show, where Michael Heiner breaks down what he's doing in Pro Stock. And look, 7 episodes in, he goes out there and wins. If you join the VIP Listener Club for a year, I'll throw in a t-shirt also. And you're like, Joe, the show better be good. I sign up for a year. You give me a t-shirt. People love t-shirts, guys, and stickers, and you get a bunch of stuff. Go to patreon.com/WFO Radio. And you heard Gary and Steve reference it. That's right. Project Pontiac is coming down the pike. The block went from John Gaige. Gary has achieved the block. He's got it. He sends me a text. It has arrived. I'm not going to ask the guy right now, like, what about the block? It's a bare block. It's just sitting there. But as things go along further, we're going to have some interesting storylines to talk about. And that's what Project Pontiac is all about, because I want to go super street racing in my 78 Trans Am. This bracket car that has been sitting around for 20 years now, it's got to have a purpose. What is the purpose? Should I do a drag and drive like Alex Taylor? No, I need to do super street, because this is something I've wanted to do since 1993 or 4. when I was bracket racing at Moroso Motorsports Park, 1995, won a track championship. But what did I always want to do? I wanted to run Super Street because it just felt like the right thing for the car. The thing weighs 3,200 pounds. So that's what we're doing. Final comments. Let's see what you guys got out there. Monica, you think every show is great, though. But this one was particularly great. Having Steve and Gary on, a little talk about Sherman, right? The .90 racers, the Lucas Oil Series racers. We got a lot of those guys in the audience. Jeff says, thanks, guys, of course. Thank you, Jeff. Jeff is a machinist as well and knows Gary's story. And anytime someone you know starts a business, whatever the business, whether it be a podcast live stream or whether it be a product like Foggit, you want to see them succeed. I certainly do. So hopefully everyone in the audience will get behind the deal and be a part of it. And speaking of t-shirts, just found out, thanks to Monica, the WFO line up there in our store. If you have the mobile app, you just go to menu and more and merch, and you're there. You can get it on our website, but all of our swag is discounted right now. Right now. We got sales on everything we got. Now, it's not me doing this. This is a service that we use, and they determine when it's on sale, which is why I only promote it when it's on sale, because I want everybody to get a super discount. All right. Thanks to Gaige Herrera for coming on the show. What a great young kid. Vance and Hines. You got Andrew and Eddie. They're like super excited about trying to sweep the entire season. 2 for 2. Going to Chicago. It's going to be great. And, of course, Gary and Steve. Really interesting stuff to hear that whole behind-the-scenes story. And if you get some and you find another usage for it, by all means, let us know. I think that will be cool as well. Tomorrow, WFO, get this. Robert Hight, Larry Dixon, Spencer Hyde, all winners. Going to start at 1 o'clock. Robert Hight first. He won the 4-wide, Circle K 4-wide at Z-Max. Getting ready for Chi-Town. Larry Dixon went down under. They call him Captain America in Australia. And he won Top Fuel in Australia. Larry's back here in the States. We're going to talk to him about that whole deal. For our Drag Racing Australia friends, they inked a new deal. They had kind of a split going on. And now they have reunited. And it feels so good. And Spencer Hyde is a Canadian who won the World Series of Pro Mod, the Drag Illustrated event that I was at. That TV show was on last week. I thought it was good. Like, you had Ted Jones, you had Jason Galvin, I was the pit reporter, and I got along great with Spencer Hyde from jump. Like, first interview, like, we were having fun, and the guy goes on and wins the thing from the 32nd qualifying position. It's a crazy story. You want to hear it? Log on tomorrow and check out the WFO mobile app and all of our stuff, and subscribe and share and tweet and retweet and all that stuff, guys. Because remember, you are our marketing plan. Word of mouth. It is the best. It is the best. And hopefully you guys love the show as much as you tell me you do. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Gary, Steve, Gaige. See you next time. WFO.